Oh, hello, everyone. I appreciate you clicking on this video. Today, I'm doing things a little bit differently. Usually, I have like a script or a format or something I'm following. Today, I'm just going to speak to you guys off of the dome. So, what do I want to talk about today? We're going to talk about Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu, which just came out this past weekend. So, guys, let's get the house cleaning out the way. Hey, listen, I appreciate you clicking on this video. If you enjoy the conversation we have throughout this, maybe you would consider subscribing. If that's not something you want to do, that's totally fine. If you had a decent time, maybe you can slap a like on it to help me out. Follow me on Letterbox. It'll be linked below for all my cinephiles out there. So let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about, a movie that's probably going to make some good money, a movie that people are going to talk about, but I know it's a movie that a lot of people did not like. And I got to say, I am a huge Star Wars fan. I have been a Star Wars fan for a while. The Empire Strikes Back, anyone who's watched this channel knows, is one of my all-time favorite movies. And honestly, one of the movies that got me into movies on a deeper level in general. And Star Wars, since being acquired by Disney, has been a roller coasters of highs and lows. I mean, some of the movies have been god awful, and some of the series have been amazing. And one of the best series of the bunch is The Mandalorian. And when I first saw Mando some years ago, I literally was blown away. I just couldn't believe we got this great new adaptation, the side story with this cool, like Boba Fett style character and this guy with his own religion and these people, and they have their beliefs and their religion as weapons. And I mean, holy hell, it was awesome. So I was, in love with the show, and season 2 of The Mandalorian is easily one of the best pieces of Star Wars content to ever be released. I mean, that episode with Luke, come on, man. I watched that episode a million times. But we're not here to talk about the show. We're here to talk about this movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, 2026, directed by the guy who created the show to begin with, Jon Favreau. And I love Jon Favreau. He's directed some good movies. I think he's very, very underrated in his talents. And I gotta say, I gotta thank him for everything he's done. I mean, he directed Iron Man 1, which kicked off the MCU. He's directed some of the coolest stuff, and he just never gets the credit for his work. But Mandalorian and Grogu. So it's got a 62 on Rotten Tomatoes right now, 7.1 on IMDb, and a 3.2 on Letterboxd, which kind of tells me that it's okay, that the movie's decent. Now, I have my own opinions on it. I went and saw it this past weekend, and I mean, it was a packed theater for the most part. A lot of kids. I mean, people were obviously interested in this. I do think this movie will at least crack about $600 or $700 million by the time it's said and done. But this movie did not feel like a big event. This was not like when The Force Awakens came out. This wasn't even any of the movies in the sequel trilogy. I don't think this movie had this big event feel to it. At least I didn't feel that way. And I think that's attributed to a lot of things. One, the state of movies right now. But Mandalorian and Grogu, let's talk about it. So let's just start off with the things I like. We're going to do this generic. Screw it. Let's just do it generic. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the overall. So let's just start with the good. First things first, I think the movie looks great. I think it looks great. Obviously, it's great to hear Pedro Pascal's voice back as Mando. I can bring you in warm, I can bring you in cold. Uh, I just love Pedro in this role. I think it's one of his coolest roles. And, it's the role that kind of made me fall in love with him as an actor. And seeing him and little Grogu back together, just doing their thing, you can't go wrong with that. If you like the show, I mean, you're not going to be upset when you see these two doing their thing. Now, I mean, the movie has a lot of action. It's got some laughs. It's got a lot of the things that gives the show the charm that it has. I mean, everybody in, they bought in. We got cool new character in Rhoda the Hutt, voiced by Jeremy Allen White, who is probably one of the biggest up and coming actors right now. We got the legend Sigourney Weaver in this movie playing a role. We got Martin Scorsese, one of the best directors ever, doing some good voice work. And as soon as you see the character and hear his voice, you know it's him. Come on, we all love Marty. Um, Mandalorian and Grogu really serves the kid side of this. If you're a child, or if you want to take your kids to see this, do it. They're gonna have a good time. It's a little over 2 hours. Probably it probably clocks about 2:10, maybe 2:12. I think is what it says. But it's probably credits by like 2:06 or seven. And the movie paces pretty well for the most part. Did it need to be this long? Probably not, but it does pace pretty well for the most part. It's a simple read, it's a simple story, and truthfully, it feels like an extended episode of the show. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. Where I think it's good is the fact that it feels familiar. It doesn't feel like we're in unknown territory. It doesn't feel like we're trying to tackle too much here. And I think that's where this movie does a good job, is they keep the story and the plot very simple, maybe too simple, but it's easy to follow. They made this for the kids. They did. They deliberately kept anything out of this movie that was going to cause any confusion. They didn't want to mess with the lore. They didn't want to mess with any pre-existing things that live in this world of the Mandalorian. And I kind of think that was a smart move. And I think it was a move that is going to pay off in the long run, as far as watchability and rewatchability with younger audiences. Like I said, I think this movie has a lot of decent action to carry it along. I think this movie's got enough good laughs to carry it along. It looks good. It's simple. Those are all the pluses of it. Now, a lot of these pluses to the movie, I would also consider some of the minuses. And we got to talk about the minuses. One, like I said, this movie's a little bit too long. I think we should have really, I get it. It's a big Star Wars movie. I think we should have tried to keep this at about 145 runtime. I could see some of the kids in my theater getting a little antsy. This is a little bit long for a movie that is geared towards kids, because I do feel this was geared towards the kids. Although there is some pretty gnarly action as far as some people, biting the dust and things like that. This movie is made for kids. The plot is very, very minimal. Too minimal, honestly. There's nothing to chew on for the older fans. There's nothing to chew on for the adults of this. Because, yes, George Lucas said a long time ago, Star Wars is for kids. Well, goddamn it, adults love it too, myself included. I've been a fan of Star Wars since I was a kid. I remember seeing The Phantom Menace in theaters when I was like 8 years old. So I've loved Star Wars for a long time, but Star Wars definitely has a strong adult fan base, and The Mandalorian, adults love it. Um, Kids were very attracted to it with Grogu, or Baby Yoda as they call him. The kids call him, not in the show. And the adults really got into the emotional side, Mando's side, his story, his arc, where he came from, why he is the way he is, and the paternal fatherly role that he takes on in raising Grogu and protecting him. And that, I'm sorry, anybody who has children or anyone who has a heart, you're a sucker for that. And that is where the charm of this show lied. And I think this movie did its absolute best to capture that charm, but I don't think they quite hit it right. And I think the problem with that is a lot of this does feel a little bit like a cash grab. I know Pedro was bought in, I know the actors were in it, and I know they really cared about it, but maybe it's too little too late. Maybe this movie should have came out a couple of years ago, because Mando the show got ruined. Okay, we all know it. If you watched the show, it got ruined. Season 2 was its pinnacle, it was its peak. The ending of season 2, my lord, is some of the best Star Wars stuff ever, ever. And they will never live up to that. This movie included. This movie like I said, it doesn't pace bad, but it could have been shorter. There's a lot of dull parts in it, and I think the reason a lot of it feels dull is because it's really hard to get invested in what is actually happening here. The plot and the story is very basic. It's Grogu and Mando, sorry. They're on an adventure, doing some bounty hunting, doing what they do, doing what Mando does, and they're trying to save Rada the Hutt, voiced by Jeremy Allen Wright, who is Jabba the Hutt's son, who is very different than him. And I think this is probably one of the highlights. Rhoda the Hutt is one of the better characters and a good new character added into the lore. It was different to see different sides of the Hutts, not so evil, who had a plan, who was sweet, who had goals and things that he wanted to do. He wanted to be different from his father. And I think that's the strongest part of this movie. But it shouldn't be. The strongest part of this movie should be the relationship between Grogu and Mando. It should be the adventures of Grogu and Mando. It should be what they're about. And everything else should be secondary. Whether it's good or bad, that should all be secondary. I feel like the Road to the Hut stuff was the meat, the heart, and the charm of this, and where I found myself personally the most invested. And I think that's kind of a bad thing. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing in the sense that I shouldn't have cared. It's a bad thing that I shouldn't care about that more than I care about Grogu and Mando, because that's what I paid to see. And although I loved seeing them and I did have fun with them in parts, a lot of this felt mm, too stiff. It lacked a lot of originality. It lacked a lot of creativity. And I'm shocked with John Favreau directing this that he missed on some of those beats. He missed on some of the stuff that made Mando great, the show. And I was very surprised. I was very much expecting to love this movie when I heard about it, when it was announced, last year or whatever. I was like, this is going to be fire. And I can't wait to go see it opening day. And I was still very pleased with what I got. I enjoyed the film. I really did. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was bad. I wasn't bored, but I also didn't find myself as captivated as I wanted to be. I didn't find myself as invested in these two characters that I love and I've loved for years now as much as I feel like I should have been. And that's really upsetting to me, and it's kind of sad because it's upsetting to know that the future of The Mandalorian is looking pretty dark. This is probably one of the last pieces of original Mando content we're going to get. I don't think we see Pedro much anymore. And Grogu, one of the cutest and funnest new characters to Disney Star Wars, who knows what's going to happen with him? I mean, Andor has kind of been carrying the torch for Star Wars lately, and that's fine. But, anybody who was hoping for that Mandalorian comeback, I don't think it's going to happen. Now, this movie is probably going to make the money that they want. And if that happens, we may get another one, just like we're probably going to get another Michael Jackson sequel, which I'm very excited for. And if y'all want a Michael review, let me know, because I've been going back and forth with that movie. Just let me know if you want me to review it, and I will. Drop it down in the comments below. But I got to say that the future of The Mandalorian as a character, as a show, movie, whatever, it's looking dark. And I can't really see it going too much further. Uh, this movie was decent. It was okay. I had some good laughs in it, a few parts. I thought some of the action was good at a few parts, but I was not captivated throughout this whole thing. It wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't legendary. It didn't do much for the world of Mando. And I think the real OG fans of Mando and Star Wars as a whole are going to find this a little flat. I read a guy that I follow on Letterboxd review this film, and man, he dogged this thing out, and it kind of made me scared to want to go see it. But after watching it, I do think he was a little harsh. But I can't lie, a lot of his criticisms were valid. Guys, we got to do something with these characters. When you got characters this good and characters that people love this much, you gotta put them in some real scenarios. You gotta give them a real story, something to chew on, something that can hit the people emotionally like the show did. And this movie lacks that. And it really lacks that. And I was just like, okay, cool. The movie probably ended like 3 times, you know, it has a lot of charm, but I think it lacks a lot of the heart. But it was cute seeing baby little Grogu just cooing and being who he is. So I'm gonna say this for all my OG Star Wars fans, for all my big time Mando fans, I do think you should watch this. Do you need to go see it in theaters? Probably not. You can probably wait till it hits plus. But if you're a real fan and you want to go see it, go. I don't think it's a waste of your money. I don't think it's a waste of your time. But I do think there's probably other movies out right now that you may enjoy the experience a little bit more. So, with that said, I'm going to give The Mandalorian and Grogu a 6.7 out of 10. And what I suggest you go see it only if you're a real deep Mando fan. So, guys, thank you very much for checking out my Mandalorian and Grogu review. Let me know if there's a film or topic you'd like me to review. Guys, if you made it to the end of this and you had a good conversation here, hey, consider subscribing. I really appreciate that. If you don't want to take that step, that's totally fine. Do me a favor, like the video if you don't mind. And if you're a big cinephile, hey, hit me on Letterboxd. It'll be linked below. That's Ralph Vader. Guys, I got a podcast with my buddy, The Cutting Room Floor. I'll link that below for more movie content. I'll be back later in the week. And don't forget the popcorn.